Before you die, taste life fully now. You feel it, don't you? A shadow on a bright day, a small tightening when you reach for more, as if something in you already knows the last page of the book is being read. That tightening is not a failure. It is information. The title, The Art of Dying Before You Die, is not a gloomy command, but an invitation to practice a certain clarity, a way of living that loosens the grip on the future so the present can be tasted. Notice how you hurry past ordinary moments in search of meaning. Notice how you tuck away sorrow like an inconvenient coat. Here's the paradox. To be truly alive, you must learn to let go of being alive as someone fixed and final. You have been taught to treat life as a project: acquire, secure, perform, postpone. We applaud the person who saves, plans, and perfects. We whisper admiration for the one who never seems to crack. Yet inwardly, you know that the applause is thin, like applause for a portrait rather than the painter. The danger isn't seeing, it's how you carry the seeing that becomes ownership, the insight that becomes another tool for reinforcing the self. Consider the stage where roles are learned and practiced. You are an actor who believes he is the script. The curtain rises, the lights warm, the audience laughs and cries, and you bow. But imagine one day you stop clutching the lines and notice the stage itself, the worn wood, the echo, the air. You're not only the role, you are the one who watches roles appear and vanish. This is the small hand that tips the large bowl. The game looks convincing. There is the board with its pieces: job, relationship, reputation, health. You move, you strategize, you protect the king and mourn the lost pawn. From the vantage point of the player, everything matters. From the vantage point of the watcher, everything moves. The ocean is not worried about the wave's career. The wave crests and sinks, and the ocean remains unconcerned, radiant in its very letting be. A friend once told me about a woman who kept a tidy life, like someone arranging shells on a shelf. She polished contracts. She moisturized anxieties with plans. She scheduled joy. When her mother became ill, she became enraged at the illness as if it had breached a contract. One night, exhausted, she sat on the edge of her bed and realized she had never learned to sit with grief. She had studied productivity extensively, but grief was a language she had not practiced. In that quiet, she wept and discovered how small attentions could be the only honest answer. We are schooled to avoid edges. Edges are risky because they invite feeling. What we're taught: protect, secure, postpone the messy feelings. What actually helps: show up with your small, trembling self and be present with the mess. Presence softens the dramatics of the actor and reveals the stage with its truth. The mirror metaphor helps. You polish the mirror to see yourself more clearly, but sometimes polishing becomes preening. You're polishing to ensure likeness, to preserve a self-image. The moon's reflection in a pond does not cling to its shape. It quivers as fish pass and wind stirs. You too can let the reflection ripple without believing in the solidity of what it shows. And yet, the cost of preserving solidity is high. The illusion asks payments in time, attention, and tenderness. You pay by avoiding truth and by burying a tenderness that wants room to breathe. You chase, you tighten, you tire. You perform, you rehearse, you hide. You rescue, you overreach, you resent. 3 subtle ways this shows up in your life. You postpone grieving because grief seems inconvenient. You keep a tidy exterior while your inner rooms pile with unshelved sorrow. This makes small losses accumulate until a minor event triggers a great collapse. You overinvest in future projects as a hedge against present discomfort. The promise of later becomes a sedative for now. You grow expert at saying, "after this," and miss the texture of this. You equate being helpful with solving. You offer answers before you have heard the question fully. That urgency masks a fear. The fear that if you do not fix, you are unworthy. The social cost is measured in the quiet rooms where people are afraid to show their edges. The personal cost is exhaustion and a growing numbness that even pleasure cannot pierce. The spiritual cost, if the word helps, is the slow domestication of wonder. Imagine a river that has been dammed for convenience. The water sits orderly, useful, controlled. Downstream, the land loses its rhythm of flood and release. Fish die, soil grows poor. Now imagine removing a small part of the dam. The river finds old patterns. It scours, it sings, and the surrounding life brightens. This is not romanticizing chaos. It is the observation that movement heals where stagnation calcifies. Here's the turn. The art of dying before you die is not about scheduling death. It is about discerning the moments to let go so life can refresh. Surrender is not giving up. It is the gentle unhooking of your identity from the need to always be intact. Presence is not performance. It is attending to what is without rehearsal. Picture a dancer who knows the song will end. Instead of stiffening to preserve a flawless line, she relaxes into the movement and finds rhythm in the impermanence. Her arms speak more truth because she's not protecting them. She dances with the end in mind and thus dances fuller. Try this for a day. When a feeling rises, notice it without commentary. Name it softly: fear, fatigue, longing, and allow it to have space. You do not need to fix it. Offer a small curiosity. What does this feeling want to be seen as? The posture of attention, simple and kind, often dissolves the need for grand action. Consider a small practice. Pause, feel, allow, act. Pause. Stop the habitual urgent move and take 3 slow breaths. This creates a crack in the automatic. Feel. Locate the sensation in your body. Give it a name and a note of curiosity, not judgment. Allow. Permit the feeling to be present without forcing change. Let it reveal itself. Act. Choose a small, appropriate action from this ground of clarity. Speak, rest, tidy, or simply breathe. This framework keeps you from treating presence as another performance metric. It is an invitation, not a prescription. Use it like a lens, not like a hammer. Another approach is to practice micro-deaths. For 5 minutes, let go of a role: parent, worker, friend, expert. Sit and observe what remains when the role's props are set aside. You might feel exposed at first. Stay with that exposure. What surfaces is the simple awareness that has been holding roles all along. When grief or loss arrives, resist the urge to fix it quickly. Attend it as you would a small child who needs to find words for their pain. The impulse to whitewash is compassionate in intent, perhaps, but it leaves the child without vocabulary. Naming and sitting with the ache gives it a language. Language softens the jagged edges. Boundaries can also be a softer thing. To belong without performing is to make choices that do not punish others or yourself. You can decline without disdain. You can be present without dissolving. Discernment is an act of care. You protect space so you can return to the world with more generosity, not less. You are not late. You are not broken. These are phrases you may have heard, but they are true in a practical way. The inner time of awakening is not scheduled by calendars. At any moment, you may notice the tightening. Relax your hand and taste a fuller air. Ripening is quiet and not always visible to onlookers. It can begin with a single breath. There is a small parable. Villagers worried about a mountain that might crumble. They built walls, reinforced paths, and scheduled patrols. The mountain continued to be a mountain. Its slope changed with weather. One elder suggested planting trees at the slope's foot rather than building ever higher walls. Over years, the roots held the soil. Storms became less destructive. The villagers had confused preventing change with living well. They learned that working with nature often asks for softer responses than fortifying against everything. That woman I mentioned, the one who had arranged shells, she found something unexpected. At her mother's bedside, she stopped trying to cure the situation. Instead, she began to describe the room aloud, like a child noticing colors. "The light is warm," she said. "The blanket smells like the garden." She spoke of small things as if they were important, and in doing so, she allowed a tenderness into the room that protocols had never taught her. Her mother listened, and sometimes she smiled, sometimes she slept. Over months, the small attentions began to replace the frantic need to do something. The shells on the shelf remained, but they no longer defined the woman. She learned how to attend. The traps are also social. You are tempted to perform gratitude on strict timings, an annual gratitude list, a ritual that proves you are virtuous. You are tempted to rehearse joy for the camera of your inner judge. These are habits that reduce living to proof rather than experience. Practice gratitude as a flavor, not a certificate. Now a more concrete look at 3 traps. We named them before, but let us linger. Comparison, rescuing, and postponement. Comparison makes your life a mirror showroom. Rescuing steals the opportunity for others to learn and be seen. Postponement robs the present of its texture. Each trap is seductive. They whisper that safety lies in tomorrow or in someone else's applause. But there are also everyday openings. A bus ride where you have nothing to do is an opening. A disagreement that does not need immediate resolution is an opening. A bowl of simple food eaten slowly is an opening. These are small schools where you practice not reacting. Try a bodily practice. When anxiety rises, put your hand on your chest and count to 4 as you breathe in, and count to 6 as you breathe out. The longer exhale calms the nervous system. This is not mysticism. It is a simple physiology that gives the mind a chance to see clearly. The heart slows, the thinking becomes less urgent, and you can choose. Try a relationship practice. For the next 3 conversations that feel tense, instead of answering first, say, "Tell me more." You will be surprised how many people are waiting for permission to speak. The permission is small, but it changes the dynamic from performance to co-presence. Try a morning micro-ritual. Before checking messages, give yourself 1 full minute of attention-free breathing. Let the first taste of your day be something you own. When you enter the swarm of notifications, you will be less likely to rent your attention out to others. Consider grief's natural timing. It does not obey deadlines. You may be halfway through a project while old sorrow surfaces. Let it. Schedule nothing to extinguish it. Allow the sorrow to have its moment. Sometimes sorrow's visit rewrites priorities in ways that later give more clarity and tenderness. In your work life, the art looks different. There is a romance with productivity that can be spiritualized into another form of doing. You can be efficient and also relaxed. You can meet deadlines and not become a machine. The distinction is subtle. One mode uses productivity to armor the self. The other uses productivity as a tool while the self breathes. One practical move is to create a return practice, a 3-minute ritual you do after any stressful episode. Step away, breathe, touch a surface and note its texture, and name one thing you saw that you had not noticed before. This reorients attention from actor to watcher. Another micro-practice is the brief confession. Once a week to yourself or to a trusted friend, confess one small thing you hide. It needn't be dramatic. Perhaps you admit you sometimes envy a colleague, or that you are tired of being the fixer. Confession is not judgment, it is making the hidden visible. When what was secret is spoken, it loses some of its power. We are schooled to avoid edges because they feel like loss. But each small letting go is an act of generosity. To yourself, because you stop feeding strivings. To others, because you stop asking them to prop up your performance. You will find that friendships deepen when you lower the valve of performance. People prefer a raw kindness to a polished display. Now consider practical boundaries again, but explored in daily gestures. Saying no needn't be dramatic. Imagine answering, "I can't tonight, but I would love to see you next week," instead of, "I can't because you're asking too much." Notice how the first preserves the relationship while protecting your space. Boundaries that include invitations to future contact do not isolate. They create sustainable intimacy. Explore a weekly practice of gentle inventory. Each Sunday evening for 5 minutes, ask, what took my energy this week? What returned it? What am I willing to repeat? And what will I alter? Keep the answers brief, 2 items each. This practice avoids moralizing and instead focuses on pattern spotting. We will return to the river motif because it holds a useful teaching. Rivers do not attempt to be rivers. They simply flow. Their intelligence is a kind of non-willing that nonetheless accomplishes the shaping of grand canyons. You can be intelligent in the same way. Working with softness rather than force often accomplishes what force could not. What about love? People sometimes fear that letting go weakens commitment, but attachment nourished by clinging is brittle. Commitment that arises from free choice, refreshed daily, tolerates the changes of seasons. When you are not clutching, you can be more generous, more playful, and more present in love. Your love becomes a song rather than a ledger. There will be setbacks. You